Alright, I've been playing with this one for a little bit, but basically, and I'm going to show you from the top so you can see, you just fuel it up, and you don't have to do like this, you can just pour it in obviously. Doesn't make a lot of sense to squeeze it in when you can just pour it right in if you have it in a pour bottle, but mine's in the squeeze bottle here, attached to a hose. So I'm going to pour it in. I've got a little bit of drippage issue, and I need to ask Jared about this. See if there's anything I can do, and maybe just some pipe cleaner or some pipe tape or something. I'm leaking out right here. I don't know if you can see that liquid out the veins here. Whenever I pump it in through the top, it runs around because it's on the same level as this thread here, and it runs around these threads here, just ever so lightly. And I guess threads are an easy place for it to seep through, and it comes out. And I've only got it coming out one, but I think that's just because I'm in a prototype mode here. It's not the final version. So oddly enough, it lights and actually heats at the bottom of it a little bit, which is not how I want to heat it. I want to find a better way to heat it in reality. We've tried putting some felt in here. That works too. It's not the best. So what I've been doing here to heat it is just the opposite of that. I've been lighting the top. I need to get a longer lighter. And letting it burn for a second until it actually begins to vaporize. And you'll notice with alcohol, it starts to vaporize really quick. And you can use it just like this, with no jets. This is just direct burning of the fuel. It's probably the least efficient way to burn fuel. You just set it on fire. And I'll put a pot on there to show you how the flame looks on a pot like that. It's not a bad flame. It's a very, if you have a perfectly flat surface, you're working on a bench, or you have a nice flat rock, and there's not a lot of people running around, obviously, you're just sitting on a space that's very safe. It's a very unsafe way to cook with just fuel wide open like that. If it tips, you obviously have a problem. It spills out flames everywhere. So that's not my favorite way to cook. And you're burning the fuel at just outright burning it. There's no pressurization there at all. So it's not the best way to cook. So that's why I usually don't cook that manner. Oh, it's getting hot quick. Can you get me a paper towel to put that on or something? Cloth. It's not the best way to cook. Actually, a pot holder would be best. My son's getting me a pot holder. You can see now that fuel is actually vaporizing. So what I like to do once it starts to vaporize is I like to use the pressurized jets that you can actually see them like that. You put them on there. Although that's not the easiest thing to put on once it's going and it's pressurized, you can then light your jets. Thank you. And now you can see that you have a jet fuels coming out. Now, I've also noticed because the heat from the steel absorbs the heat from the aluminum, that now we've actually pulled the heat out of the aluminum and out of the fuel from below. So we get very low jets. They're very small. I think that if this was made out of aluminum, that heat wouldn't all get absorbed out of the lower piece of aluminum or would transfer better. Steel tends to suck up more heat than aluminum and holds it better. So the steel center is actually pulling all the heat out of the bottom, causing it to not be hot anymore and not vaporize the fuel. This is my opinion. I don't know if this is true or not. But we don't have any vaporization going on hardly right now. Just a little bit. And we showed in another video where we have, I don't have my, but if you have this heated down here, which I'm going to show you by making it all, I'm going to mess it all up by making it dirty. When the bottom's hot, you can see the vaporization really starts to happen. Now that was really messy. Sorry, Jared, I'm messing up the stove by just getting light on it. And we've done that by holding the felt down here and got it all flaming at the bottom, and that does work really well. It does get it flaming hot. And if there was some way to keep this hot down here, I think that you would definitely have a huge flame here, and it would make for a perfect cooking season. Now, however, this, just like this, makes for a nice warmer. It's not going to boil your water, but it makes for a very nice warmer, as you can see. Which I like the way that does that. It burns efficiently, It's just hot enough to where it's vaporizing it, enough to push it through those jets, not at a high speed, but a slow burn. It tends to get a little hotter as you put your pot on there, because then the pot transfers heat down through the rods and it vaporizes. So maybe that's just the answer. You need to get your pot on there sooner. I'll try that again and see if actually as soon as I put my pot on there, we actually have a good flame now. So maybe there's no need to change that steel plate. As I mentioned before, that steel plate is actually kind of nice because it's weighted down, it's heavy. And just the heat transferring from the rods seems to be putting enough heat down there to cause it to pressurize. So maybe we can get a good boil out of this. We'll see. It's actually boiling really well. So in that same sense, I want to take the pot back off. I'm not going to try and get a boil here. I'm not showing boil times on this film. I just want to see how it all works. And see if it goes back down when the pot is not attached. Now, of course, the fuel is very hot right this minute because it had all that heat transfer down. Let's see if, and the hotter it is, the more it's touching these rods. So it may or may not come back down based on the fact that it's still hitting those rods. And that didn't take long once it got started up. I may have to cool it back down and try that again just to see if putting the pot on there makes all the difference in the world. It's a good burn right there. Very good burn, actually. I'm impressed. I like that. Rolls around the pot just right. Not over burning. I was getting some. When I had my felt down below down here, and I have a video of that, this thing was just flaming all around. So I actually had to lay my fuel down here because I was worried about this getting on fire, which actually I was holding my hand there. It was nice and calm and cool. It wasn't too hot in any manner, so that was okay. I was a little worried about it at first, but it seemed to be very good. You cannot refuel it with this in this manner. I tried squirting fuel in here in this type, and all it does is it hits that steel that's burning hot, and it vaporizes instantaneously, and it's just a ball of flame rolls off it. You cannot refuel while you're using these jets. So you need to make sure it has plenty of room down there for fuel. You can fit, I would say, 2 ounces, maybe even 2.5 ounces in here. And that will last you a good 10 minutes to boil with these jets. I didn't put 2 ounces in there. I put maybe 1 ounce in there. And we're burning pretty long here, so it seems to be good. The way this comes out like this allows it to roll out the sides. Really nice. It actually brings that flame out around the pot a little better sometimes. So we actually have a boil already. That's a nice boil. And that was pretty quick. That was really quick. We're going to have to time that in a minute and see what we have. 'Cause that's a nice boil that quick. I don't even have my lid on there either. I have it open with no lid. And I already have the boil going here. It's not a rolling boil yet, but boy, it's a nice boil. And I like that. I like that a lot. That actually really, with that flame coming out, and maybe too close, with that flame coming out now and hitting these rods, we're getting some good pressurized fuel. And the steel plate is definitely keeping steady. It's not moving around, it's not jumping, it's not bouncing. There's not too much pressure rolling in there to bounce around. And we're getting a good boil going there. And I think if I had my lid on, we'd already be at a rolling boil. Nice, I like that. Okay, definitely a good there, Jared. I don't think we're going to need to change that at all. I think it's looking really good. I'm going to take that off. I don't need to get a boil going because I wasn't in the goal of getting a boil. Now, putting the stove out. Piece of cake when it's in this jet mode. Goes out, simple little blow. I didn't even blow hard, right out. Now, this plate, because it is steel, is sizzling hot. You're not going to be able to touch that right away. But, as I mentioned before, these are aluminum. And yeah, they're hot right now, but in a few seconds they're not that hot. And you can see I'm already, and that one I don't think was in all the way either. That may have been why I was getting the leakage earlier. It's hot, but I mean, to the touch, I'm touching this already. And yeah, I'm touching it for a split second at a time. But I can unscrew it and put it in the bottom already. Okay. Now, I can take my felt, stack it on top there. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do this, show you how fast this would go. Take these out. There's some heat in here still. I don't want to You know, I want to eat my food before I start doing this maybe. And then I can set my butane on top of that. And look at there. It fits right on top there. You don't have the metal rubbing against the metal. Right on top there. I know there's some room down in space in here. There's actually still some fuel in there. I blew it out with fuel in there. So I would pour that back into my bottle. It's a very easy pour process. And that could stack right inside your cup or mug without having to wait forever for this metal to cool. Because these things here, you can put a torch on one side and have your hand on the other side and not even feel the heat. There's no heat transferring through one of these, let alone two of these. I mean, zero heat transferring through those. And that metal plate, I wouldn't say it'd take that awful long to cool down. You don't want to touch a metal plate while it's hot, but it will cool down 5 minutes, which is longer than it's going. I mean, less time than it's going to take you to eat anyway. Oh, and I was saying you could screw these right into the bottom here, like that. And it's hard to do when it's a little hot still. And it is still hot, and there is still fuel in there. I don't want to tip the rest of that fuel out and waste it. So yeah, I'm touching that metal plate. It's hot. I'm not saying it's not hot, but it's not boiling hot. Another thing you can do is you can pour your fuel. And it's still too hot to be trying to tip it over. Alright, we're going to pause. We'll come back with the felt option.